Hey, everybody, welcome to Resiliency Radio, your go-to podcast for the most cutting-edge insights in integrative and functional medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Jill, and with each episode, we dive into the heart of healing and personal transformation. Join me as I interview medical experts, thought leaders, and renowned, interesting, fascinating people who are making world change all over. I'm so excited for today's guest. I just met her today on the episode, but our mutual friend who does web development was telling us we must meet one another, and he was right. Today's episode will just encourage you and give you such practical tools to build resilience. We're talking about best kept secrets to resilience. So stay tuned because this just might change your life. Before we do, I want to be sure to mention you can find products that are specially curated at my website, drjillhealth.com. We've got kits and things for detox, for Epstein-Barr virus, for tick-borne infections, for gut health, for general wellness, anything you might need. It's all there at drjillhealth.com. And today I wanted to introduce one of my very favorites. This is like foundational, probably my favorite product in my line. It is called the Biopeptide Beauty Cream. This thing is a game changer. And in a world of retinols, which your dermatologist or doctor might be prescribing or wanting you to take, a lot of the prescription products that are medical grade have parabens and phthalates and things that are toxic to your system. You can guarantee that the Dr. Jill Beauty brand does not contain phthalates or parabens. These are non-toxic, and yet they have the power to transform your skin and prevent premature aging. This one in particular I love because although retinols are such powerhouses for fine lines and wrinkles, at least where I'm at in the state of Colorado, they're very drying and they can cause flaking and peeling. I still use retinols, and my 5X retinol with bakuchiol is a real favorite. But this one I use every night. It's nourishing, it's protective, it contains peptides, and it is by far my favorite product in the line. You can get yours now at drjillhealth.com. Again, check out Biopeptide Beauty Cream. Okay, guys, let's get to the show and let me introduce our guest. Dr. Eva Selhub is an innovative and results-driven executive advisor with over 20 years of experience in leadership development, resilience training, integrative health consulting, and teaching at Harvard Medical School. She is a dynamic board member and trusted advisor committed to fostering organizational resilience and driving strategic transformation in global companies. Renowned for optimizing individual and corporate potential through holistic and evidence-based approaches, with a proven track record in guiding executive teams to peak performance and well-being. Today, she's going to talk about personally best kept secrets to resilience. Let's get on with the show. Dr. Eva, welcome to the show. I am super excited to get to know you more and hear about your journey, your story, what you're doing in the world now. Do you want to give us just a little background first on how you got into medicine and then how you transitioned into coaching and executive advising and all the amazing work you're doing in the world?
I would love to. And first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to have this conversation. We have people in common, so I've been really looking
Yeah.
forward to this. Yeah, so I don't, somebody asked me this question before, and I don't remember when I didn't think I was going to be a doctor. So I think that's one thing is just as a child. My father's a biochemist and was going to be a doctor. He spent, in the B vitamins and folic acid. We were always in hospitals working with the doctors. I just never considered that I would ever do anything else. And also was interested in sort of being a medicine woman, and I studied anthropology and interested in energy. And in 1976, my favorite show was ISIS, so most people
Uh-huh.
probably don't remember that. I'm older, but she used to move things telepathically and with her, energy things, and so I always wanted to be all of the above. So just sort of that's the preface. And my plan was to work in ICUs, either ERs or ICUs. That was kind of my personality type, and my plan was to actually do a fellowship, go to medical school, do residency, fellowship, just the same thing everybody else does. That's what you're supposed to do. Again, so is it me that wanted that? My father, I don't know, but I never really considered anything other than medicine, other than being a rock star, but I can't remember the words to any songs. So that was out. And then in my second year of residency, this is in 1996, and I was doing a procedure in the ICU, and on a very, very, and a patient who was really on sort of death's door, and he moved while I was doing the procedure, and the needle slipped and went into my finger, and
Yes.
that blood was infested with HIV.
Oh,
So in 1996, you know, being exposed to, full-blown AIDS and hepatitis C was no small feat. It was no
right.
small thing. And so in that moment, sort of everything kind of changed. One is that my first experience of that needle stick was not fear, it was actually shame that I had screwed up.
Mm.
And, then when I was sort of sinking in, and this is important because it's why I talk the way I talk about resilience, um, when I really started realizing that I couldn't fix it,
Yeah.
that's when the fear set in and that nobody else could fix it either. So that was devastation and despair. And so I spent 6 weeks taking, at that time, the NIH had just come out with a post-exposure prophylactic cocktail of medications.
Mm.
It turned out to be about 14 pills a day for 6 weeks. So, with not to mention that I was emotionally distressed and psychologically distressed, but then I was also physically distressed from the medications for 6 weeks. So I
Wow.
did a lot of bargaining. I said, if there is a God, I promise I will be a nicer person, a kinder person. I'll be more benevolent, compassionate, whatever that is. Somewhere in me, I must have been thinking that I did something wrong to deserve this. And please let me live. And the fact that I was going to die alone and single and unloved and with all this medical school debt, that no one was going to hire me, it was just, one stress after another. And so during that time, I also was really kind of looking at, okay, if you do live and if you don't get HIV, is this really what you want to do? Do you really want to work in ICUs?
Yeah.
Do you really want to risk your life all the time doing these procedures? Um, is this what medicine is all about? And also the lack of dignity of the way like we die in this country. All of that sort of came to me. And it was just no, 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 no. And I thought, well, what else are you going to do? I said, I don't know. But I guess I'll just go into primary care until I figure it out, which was, for somebody who's going to do a specialty, that's
Yeah, very different, I know.
like, I don't want to do primary care. And I took it seriously. I followed a midwife around so I could learn more about women and, I worked in an underserved area so I could, was living up to my part of the bargain. And and then, I had to finish out my third year of my residency, as well. But during that, right after the needle stick, there was a succession of events that brought me to my knees, which was the needle stick. And then, like maybe 2 months later, my dog died. Then my grandfather died. Then a woman I didn't know started harassing me and writing letters to the medical board. I had to take her to court. My apartment burned down and I lost everything. I had no renter's insurance. And then my father had a heart attack all within a 5-month period. So, needless to say, I burned out. Every time something bad would happen, I would cry about it, would go into despair, and then pick myself up by my bootstraps and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. And by the time my dad had that heart attack, which was within this 5-month period, I couldn't pivot. I was done.
Wow.
I
Dr.
couldn't.
Eva, that is just, that is unbelievable what you went through. And there's so many pieces I want to talk more about because I know a lot of people can really, and you and I as physicians, there's such a culture of hidden shame and of one of the things I encounter with the functional integrative world is so often doctors were going along thinking they had all the education they needed, and either they themselves get sick with something unusual that they couldn't fix or someone they love, and they're like, oh, there's a limit to what standard medicine can do, right? Pills and surgery. It's great if you have a heart attack or stroke or, trauma, just like in the ICU. But then when you have autoimmunity or you have a weird seizure disorder, no one can do. So all of these mysterious things, then that often is a turning point of like, and there's so much much shame around we should know what to do. Even like when I heard about the stick, the needle stick you went through, there was a shame around number one, I shouldn't have stuck myself, which I think we've all had a needle stick. I had one
Right.
too, not to that extent, but same, and there is this shame and like, oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? And then
Right.
around the physicians even knowing what to do about themselves or loved ones, we all at some point come to a case, and frequently it's someone we love and care deeply about that we don't have the answers. And
Right.
somehow this education system that we've been in tries to, I think there's a thing around we should have all the answers, right? So where is that dichotomy between what we should be, which is not true anyway, right? And then
Right.
the reality of the fallible humanity that we live in and the lack of having this all-knowing omniscient power that I think only the divine has, right? How did you kind of, because I hear you in that story and I also hear what many people do, you come to the end of your rope. I mean, this is why AA and those programs are so powerful because part of the first few steps is when do you come to the end of yourself and what do you do when you hit that
What do you
bottom?
do?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's such a poignant question because at the end of my rope, I wanted to die. I was done. I didn't, and I wasn't suicidal to the point where I would take my own life because of what that would do to other people, but I did not have the energy to live.
Yeah.
Okay. I was exhausted and I felt just so helpless and
Hmm.
hopeless.
Yeah.
And I basically walked around just like a robot, doing things by rote.
Yeah.
Um, and probably for another 5 months. It
Uh-huh.
just took a while. And thinking, why me? Why me? Like, why?
Yeah.
And a friend took me out to dinner and she just said, "We miss you." That's all she said. She
Oh,
wasn't anything profound. And I just went home and I said, you've been asking the wrong question. It's not why me. It's not even why. It's why not.
yeah.
Nature just as soon lets a forest fire burn as a flower bloom. It's not something that you did, it just happens.
Yeah.
The question is, not asking why something is happening to me, but just saying, what is it that I'm going to do about it? How can I make it happen with me? And so, it was that kind of sort of understanding of that I didn't have the answers, but I also didn't need to.
Yes. It's
That there was other people that I needed to reach out to help me find those answers, which is why I started volunteering at the Mind Body Medical Institute.
wow.
And that sort of led me to the whole mind body medicine thing because I got a job working for the Harvard Hospital, so I had a teaching position at Harvard. So I volunteered at the Mind Body Medical Institute, which is part of the Harvard teaching systems. And a year later, they asked me to be their medical director. So I learned about meditation and cognitive behavioral therapy, nutrition, exercise, all these things we don't learn in medical school
Right.
and started, using those things with myself and my patients and saw them getting better,
Yeah.
getting off their medications, getting better through these sort of lifestyle modifications, behavioral modifications. So that sort of, again, for me was, I don't know why I'm this way, but if I'm this way, that means most people are this way. If I have this shame and I have this low self-worth and I have this feeling that I need to know everything
Mm.
and that I need to know the answer and that figuring that it's not the answer that we need to know, but the question.
Yeah.
It's, having the right questions, not the right answers. And so that just led me into a path of inquiry, which, led me to the Mind Body Med Institute, led me to be a medical director, led me to develop some expertise in stress physiology and application clinically, and then opening up. Well, I left my primary care practice because I also had enough because they were changing the model to what it is today,
Yeah.
this incentive model. And I said, I'm not going to be using my patients as numbers. I'm not counting my patients.
Too. I could not agree more. So interesting because two things that came out in your story. Number one was a friend said, "We miss you." How simple and how profound. And it was that statement that even to this day is part of your story. I think one of the things that people are most missing in their world of being stuck to the iPhone and this dopamine driven, locked into scrolling, death scrolling, they call it, right?
Yes.
Is the lack of community, the lack of connection, and people are feeling it more than ever. So I want to talk about that.
Yes.
Also, just wanted to mention because you basically alluded, I always say that faith, regardless of what religious background, is kind of like how we deal with the inevitable uncertainty of life. Like, how is our relationship with that uncertainty? And you came face to face to this crazy uncertainty and trauma, 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 trauma. And first spiraled downward like we all do, and
Right.
then picked yourself up and like, wait, could this be instead of why me, why not me? Let's first talk about connection, because I'm sure in your work you have seen maybe more powerful than any nutritional intervention, the power of human connection and empathy. And how does that play into our healing?
Well, it's funny you should say that because for me it is love, as far as it's not even just human connection, it's the love in general. So I I'll sort of fast forward this story when I why I left my primary care practice. So this is actually going to take that story and answer your question. And I was having panic attacks in between patients. I was just miserable. I hated my job. And then my sister went into labor, and I was there, and I was part of the hospital. And, they gave her to me out of the womb. She had a C-section, and I'm holding this bloody mess in my hands, and everything was going to be okay.
Oh,
That feeling when just time stood still, like
yes,
your breath is taken away, and like the gates of heaven have opened
yes,
up.
yes.
And in that moment, everything I hated was going to be okay. And it kept happening every time I was with her. And I said, what is this? What is happening to me physiologically that I'm going from nothing is possible to anything is possible. So I do what I do, which I research the research. I have experiences or see clinical experience, and then I research the research because again, it's knowing what questions to ask. And my colleagues in Germany had actually written a paper in the neurobiology of love,
Oh,
which is similar to the neurobiology of meditation, of the relaxation response, or the placebo response, where you have the dopaminergic reward system in the brain that's activated, the stress response is downregulated, oxytocin, morphine-like substances go up. It allows our body to heal, allows us to be more sociable, allows us to feel more connected, and allows us to believe in possibilities. That's what the placebo response is. And so I said, aha, this is it. I said, if I can bring love into the equation in every form, in all its formats, then A, I don't have to meditate as long because I get there faster. But more so, I it's what's really going to allow us to heal. So the title of my first book was called The Love Response,
oh,
which is the biochemical reaction of what's happening in our physiological response when we are accessing the physiology of love through social love, which is our connection with others or even pets,
mm.
through self-love, which is our self-compassion and self-care and self-nurturing, and ultimately spiritual love, which is our connection with something much greater than. So it is all about connection, but it takes all different types of forms of connection, of understanding that we're not isolated beings, and that we have an innate desire to belong and feel connected and feel loved. And loved is the antidote to a very difficult and challenging and fear-based life on earth that we will have. Like I said, nature will just as soon let a forest fire burn as a flower bloom. It's not personal, and what we've been given biologically is this ability to feel love, to allow us to mitigate uncertainty and deal with difficulty.
Oh, that is so beautiful. So there's nothing I would like to talk about more than love. And people think it's all fluff, and it's actually some of the
No.
most profound, powerful. So let's talk about, for those disbelievers out there, the skeptics that sometimes listen, let's talk about the physiology of love, because this is real science. You have brought it to the forefront. And if anyone can speak to it, what happens in our bodies when we feel so first of all, let's talk about the physiology, and then we'll go to someone listening out there who might be like, yeah, but I don't feel it. How do I get into that state? So first, physiology.
So and look, again, love comes in different forms and there is the excitement of love, like when we're in love, and then there's there's the sort of the experience of love that we have in that state of compassion or awe. Um, but in general, what is happening is that oxytocin is released, which is as opposed to OxyContin, is
Yeah.
oxytocin, which is the love hormone. Also has been deemed the trust molecule, which allows us to trust and believe and to bond with others. It's biologically wired. we're wired to have it within us so that we bond to our partners, we bond to our babies. We needed our partners to be around, and and babies needed their parents to love them because we have a very long gestational and maturation period. So gestation, 9, 10 months, and maturation is like 12, 13 years, which means you need to have a parent around or an older person around to take care of the other who is
Mhm.
weak. So
Yeah.
we biologically have this hormone that keeps us bonded and keeps us and creates this euphoria that wants us, to be together. And yes, it's the same hormone that goes up 400-fold when we're delivering.
Mhm.
Why? Because it's analgesic and anesthesia. So it causes you to forget. And it's like why we get stupid when we're in love, right? Because we're like, yeah, no problem. But it does. It numbs. It's like it's an analgesic and it's also an amnesiac. You forget. That's why women have babies again, because they forget how painful it was. Right? So again, there's a biological reason for it. And also men generally, again, this is a general statement, will generally want to spread their sperm far and wide. So they would not necessarily be monogamous.
Mhm.
Oxytocin keeps them around, again, long enough for that child to survive. It's for, survival of the species. So with oxytocin, we see a downregulation of the stress response, lowering stress hormones, improved immunity, improved wound healing. We see, of course, more sociability, which allows us to bond and connect. We see the dopaminergic reward system that's activated. So we see a more of a belief in possibility. And they've done different studies. Mimi Guarneri has done some wonderful work on the heart speaks. And there's other studies that have looked at what allows communities to actually have longevity,
Yeah.
given that they might eat the same thing as everyone else or smoke or whatever it is. And what it is their community.
Yes. Yeah,
You
even
know,
the blue
they're
zones, there's such a commonality with eating meals together, spending time with loved ones. Like there's such a
exactly.
clear social connection and some sort of higher belief in a higher power is common to all the blue zones, right? These areas where they live over 100 or over 90.
Yeah. And so to the question of how do we access it if we don't have people, and I think, look, I call it sort of that love pyramid that we learn about love through our connection with others as we're aging, right? We don't know who we are, and we don't know
Hmm.
even if we are consciousness, we then start using our brains later and forget consciousness. We go get back to that spiritual sort of connection later on in life. But we're learning about love through others, and many people have not.
Yeah.
Many people have not. So where can we learn that? How can we tap into that physiological experience? Well, an easy one is through nature.
Yes.
An easy one is through gratitude or through awe, right? So you just, think about an experience of awe, whether it's gazing at a beautiful sunset or a sunrise or an eagle soaring in the sky or gazing into the eyes of somebody you adore or watching, a child walk for the first time. Anything that is deemed sort of miraculous, that you're gazing at something, at magic and miracles in your mind, whatever that might be, that elicits a sense of openness,
Yeah.
of connectedness, of oneness for some people. That's how we can tap in.
Oh, I love that so much because so often, as you mentioned, like at night, often after dark, I'll go on a walk and sometimes listen to music, sometimes not. And for me, those walks, sometimes I see the stars or the moon. Sometimes I think about my day and a patient that shared something precious and deep and how sacred that moment was. And literally, those are I feel so connected to the divine on those walks. And my heart is just filled with this like awe. And it's so, and I know that for me, that's like how if I were a car getting gas, that's my fuel every
Yeah,
day for the next day, right? So
and
like,
it absolutely is. It absolutely, I mean, that is the love response, and it absolutely is. It's improving your immune system.
yeah, yeah,
It's
so
improving your
powerful.
cardiovascular system. It's
And you don't
improving.
need any fancy equipment or like it's so accessible.
No, it's no co-pays and doesn't cost anything.
Right, right. Now you and I obviously have tapped into this. This is like my fuel for sure, but I can just hear some of those out there. And as popular YouTube videos now on the avoidant with attachment styles. So someone out there might be saying, what if love has betrayed me? I'm like shut down. Or what if I just distrust connection? I've been hurt. How would you start with counseling someone to be open to this or to heal a wound of betrayal? Because the truth is, as we're open, I mean, I've had that too. I had some crazy betrayals and I
We all
just
have,
keep, right? We all have, right? So how do you counsel someone who's been really hurt and wounded and maybe really energetically shut down?
Well, look, first of all, it's absolutely valid, and for the most part, people are not trustworthy.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. Why? And I don't say that in a mean negative way. When I'm in stress,
Yeah.
okay, when I'm in distress, okay, I close up.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm in fight or flight, my brain will go into survival mode, into figuring out how to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so I might not be thinking about you. I'm not thinking about you because I'm thinking about how to survive. If I'm drowning, I'm going to try to grab onto the nearest thing to try to stay afloat, and it might be you.
Yeah.
Now, it's not because I have any ill intent towards you. It's because I'm trying to save my own life. Now, if I'm trying to save my own life and you're trying to save your own life, you're not realizing that I'm not trying to save my life. You're just trying to save your own life. And that's how we're all walking around like that, in our fight or flight response, in that fear response. So the first step, and this is what I guide people through, is working on self.
Yeah.
We're not working on other people yet. That comes later. Relationships, people, that comes later. Well, the first thing is to start figuring out who am I? What is love to me? And I, have do guided relaxations and meditations with people where I instigate that love response. What does it feel like to have my heart open? And to allow people not to trust. I allow you not. It's okay. It's totally normal because ultimately you don't want to be in a state of love stupidly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is why I was saying, like when we fall in love, we get kind of stupid. So what we want to do is we don't want to let go of fear because you need it. You need to distrust at times. But what we want to not do is take it personally. To be able to have an open mind, a clear mind, and an open heart that are now coalescing so the mind can discern whether something or someone is aligned or not aligned, and it is whether it's to my highest and greatest good to interact. So I'm not taking what somebody does personally, and that's really the issue here. So I teach people self-awareness, how my body's speaking to me, what it's telling me. Am I shutting down because I'm distrusting? That's okay. Self-compassion.
Yeah.
So self-awareness, self-compassion. How does my body speaking? That's okay. I love you, right? The Ho'oponopono prayer is one of my favorites, right? I
Yeah.
love you. Thank you. Please forgive. I love you. Please
Yes.
forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. But you're saying it to yourself, not to anyone else.
Oh, so good.
Okay. And so then we can start regulating that fight or flight response through, and stimulating the vagal response through whether it's deep breathing or counting, whatever techniques that I teach or other people teach, doesn't matter. We get into that place of calm. So now I can listen and I can discern what's really going on here. And I can make an active choice. How do I function from my highest self to the highest good? And then I start looking at my relationships and developing relationships where there's an equal giving and receiving, where there is mutual respect, mutual reciprocity, being able to actually see through the lens of value at all times, and noticing when we're not, but always taking responsibility for that. So it takes time. And ultimately, that is transcended through our connection to something greater than,
Yeah.
whether it's you believe in divine or a religion or nature or spirituality, whatever you want to call that, or quantum physics, is being able to align with that notion that I am much greater than what I have right in front of me, that my brain is creating this box of what I think I need to be safe. And when I feel completely as consciousness
Yeah.
or oneness, I don't actually need that box. But
Yeah.
I use the box when I need it.
Hey guys, just a quick commercial break. We'll get right back to our show, but I want to remind you as we talk about resilience today, if you have not yet read my book, it's called Unexpected Finding Resilience Through Functional Medicine, Science, and Faith. It's been a bestseller, and many of you who've read it, shared it with friends and family and loved ones, have commented and told me how much this book has impacted you. So if you have not yet got your copy, you can find it on my website, drjillhealth.com. You can get, if you order it there, you automatically get a signed copy by me, drjillhealth.com. You can also find it at Read Unexpected or anywhere you get books. So pick up your copy today. If you've read it, share it with someone you love. And now back to our show. Yeah. Oh, that was a really beautiful overview, starting with ourselves and actually those processes which could be directed towards other. We're actually starting with ourselves and then finding these safe relationships where there's mutual reciprocity and unconditional positive regard and all those kind of core foundations, and then going to that higher. And I find I am so much more able to deal with my own triggers when I am connected to that higher power, that all of my nightly walks, those kind of processes, because then I can go into my day. Someone can say something that might have been offensive, and I'm like, oh, sweetheart, you're wounded, or, whatever it is, you just don't take it personally. And when we can show up that way, it just makes life a lot easier for our relationships, for ourselves.
Mhm.
How would you, and this is all the self-work, but what about if most of us have relationships, either coworkers or partners or children or parents or whatever, and they're close, and it's inevitable that we're going to get triggered or that someone will withdraw or say something hurtful. How can we show up with someone who maybe we see is wounded or is not in love, and we don't want to call them out or shame them or feel like we're any better than them, but how can we show up in those places that maybe require more compassion? Any tips on that?
Again, first and foremost is those steps of self-awareness, self-compassion, stress regulation. Those are always going to be the first three steps. And why is that important? Especially self-compassion is like, Christine Neff is just so beautiful and amazing in her work, is that this is about shared humanity, right? So when I have self-compassion for being human, then I'm able to recognize that that person is human as well, that they are suffering, and this is why they act the way they act. To be able to see somebody for who they are and how they are without expecting them to be something different so that I can feel better.
Yes.
So when I work with people, we work on relationships and expectations. We work on communication. Why? Because most people, because we don't have that self-awareness, we have expectations of others to be a certain something so that we can feel better,
Yes.
right? I go to a restaurant and I expect the waiter to serve me food. I go to the dentist and I expect the dentist to take care of my teeth. I don't go to a waiter to take care of my teeth, and I don't go to a dentist to serve me food.
Yes.
But we do that in relationships all the time,
Yes.
okay? And so then we get upset about it. And so one is seeing somebody for everything and for what and who they are,
Yeah.
and then accepting it and staying or accepting it and leaving. But either way, you have to accept it,
Yes.
right? And then also being aware of what is it that I really want, because everybody knows what they don't want,
Yeah.
but they're not really clear on what they do want. So once you can get clarity on what you do want, which is the listening and self-reflecting, then I can actually tell you.
Yeah.
Now I can communicate mindfully about what it is that's going on inside of me and what I'm feeling, as opposed to saying, you're doing this and you're doing that. You're saying, this is what I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about you ultimately because I'm not in your body. I
Hmm.
can only tell you what I feel. So again, teaching people how to be mindful,
Hmm.
how to be more self-aware, how to be more compassionate and more present. And that usually then, when I'm working with couples, I say, look, you're going to fall in love, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to stay together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Because you might find that you love it's about finding that love again that brought you together, but you might see it differently this time because you're balanced and present, and you might realize that you're not meant to actually be together. So, anything can happen.
wow, I love that. That was a really powerful lesson I learned after 20 years of marriage and a kind of sudden surprise divorce. That looking back, best thing that ever happened because it allowed me to go really deep and transform who I was in the world, how I was showing up without blaming. And so I'm so grateful. And my ex-husband and I are now very good friends, and we both feel like that was the best thing we could have ever gone through.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I shifted from thinking this is lifelong forever, no matter what, to realizing, oh, that was a lesson and it was a powerful lesson and we had incredible years together. And now, the divine wanted something different for me. And through that was some lessons that I needed to learn. And I would have never learned had I not kind of suddenly
Right.
gone through a really difficult divorce. So
But
it's,
that's it.
yeah,
I mean, if
yeah,
you think about our ancestors, they didn't live for very long,
yeah,
right? 35 years maybe. So a relationship was biologically meant to last as long as that child needs
yeah,
you to be around. So maybe they had 10 kids or whatever, but
mhm,
maybe 15 years,
yeah, yeah.
maybe 15 years, maybe, but they also had community. They had people, lots of people around them. So lots of people helping take care of those kids.
Mhm.
So you didn't rely on one person to be everything for you.
Right. It's so different. And that now our
Very
expectations are
different.
kind of a little too much often for that one relationship to fulfill all of our needs. It's
All of our needs.
it's
And so again,
ridiculous.
you're expecting the dentist to be your waiter,
Yeah.
right?
So good. Let's shift. You advise a lot of global organizations and leaders and people in this sphere. And a lot of the question from these organizations, I'm sure, is like, we want resilience training. What is resilience? What does that mean? And I think sometimes maybe that's the wrong question. How do you define resilience and what would be like best practices underneath that word that kind of gets thrown around a lot?
Yeah, it's interesting because people started coming to me for resilience work during COVID, actually, because it was it started becoming a buzzword around then,
Yeah.
and people started coming to me because I'd been talking about it for 20 years,
Mhm.
prior. So it wasn't just sort of a buzzword thing, and it's interesting that you say it that way, that it's been thrown around because I do look at it differently. In general, resilience, the definition of resilience is the ability to bounce back into original form after stress, after adversity. And so, do we go back exactly to, I mean, are you like a rubber ball that when you bounce, when you fall on the ground, you bounce back and you're completely unharmed and unscathed? No. We're humans, so we fall and we're like babies. They fall, they get back up, they bounce. We don't bounce anymore as we age.
Uh-huh.
So, resilience, the way I describe resilience is about it being about elasticity, adaptability, flexibility,
Yeah.
right? To be kind of like, the waves of an ocean,
Yes.
or like I said, or like a curtain that moves in a breeze,
Yeah.
right? So we know we're going to face difficulty. We know that life is going to be hard or challenging. It's not about removing stress.
Yeah.
It's about being able to work with it.
Hmm.
It's about using it to our advantage, right? It's going to be there anyway. Without it, I'd actually be dead. So
Hmm.
how do I use it to my advantage? How do I take that energy and use it and transmute it into something? There's a lot of talk right now about a lot of people in the spiritual space, especially and vagal tone activation and relaxation and calming your nervous system, which is all great. But a lot of people are doing this as a mode of spiritual bypass,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Let me calm the nervous system and I'm just going to go into my little hole and meditate and not deal with the world. That's not what resilience is about.
Hmm.
Resilience is also about grit,
Yes.
right? About having to have a mental toughness and saying, okay, here it goes, bring it. I got this, right? But doing it in such a way that you don't burn out.
Hmm.
So resilience is a spectrum, okay? Like I said, we bounce when we're babies, we break when we're adults, but yet we're wiser, we can handle more as an adult that we couldn't do as children, right? So there's a spectrum. If you think about, I like to use the example of a branch.
Yeah.
So you've got a baby branch. So it's quite flexible and adaptable, but it can't hold the snow. And then you've got the really old branch that's nice and thick. I mean, it's nice and big and it could probably hold more snow, but because it's hollow and brittle, it breaks.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the middle, we've got one that's pliable and flexible, but also has weathered time and its branches have gotten stronger to really actually hold the weight of life. Because that's really what resilience is. But it also involves flexibility, adaptability, openness, and being able to move. That's why controlling the nervous system is so important. Because when we're rigid, we break.
Yeah.
That's what fear does. Love creates the relaxation. Fear causes the rigidity, right? So my teaching involves what are the ways, and I have 6 pillars that help us cultivate and optimize resilience. Everybody's resilient, by the
Yeah.
way.
I
It's just
love that
they're
because
where
then
you
it's
are on the
not,
spectrum.
yeah, it's not something that people are like, well, you have that, but I can never
Right.
have that, right?
Exactly. So there's physical vitality.
Mhm.
So what are the things that we need to do to be, have energy, like
Yes.
real energy, life force energy,
Hmm.
not just not being tired, right? So our physical activity, nutrient-rich foods, adequate and quality sleep, time out, unplugging, being out in nature, relaxation time, so on and so forth. The second one is emotional equilibrium or emotional intelligence. It's when we are able to use our emotions as the messages that they are to help us navigate life as opposed to having our emotions control us. So that's the second one. Why is that important? Because those allow us to have the mindset of
Hmm.
what I call the opportunity mindset. So many people, again, talk about grit when they talk about growth as opposed to the limited or fixed mindset. Oh no, I can't take it. Oh gosh. To not only there's like growth here and I'm going to take this challenge on. I've got grit, but it's saying, how can I see this as an opportunity for growth, for learning, and also for paying it forward,
Hmm.
for supporting others, right? So that's what, like that third pillar is the mindset. The fourth is our relationships.
Yeah.
We're not meant to exist on our own. How do we build quality relationships where there's that equal giving and receiving? How do we communicate effectively? The fifth pillar is also about connection, but it's the spiritual connection, right? As you said, that ultimately is transcending all of it. The sixth pillar is taking accountability for me not being an isolated being in the world,
Mhm.
meaning that everything I feel, do, think, in every part of my existence is affecting other people,
Oh,
is affecting everything else around me. When you throw a boulder into the water,
yes.
it creates huge waves. A pebble, you throw that into the water, it doesn't cause huge waves, but it still creates ripples that are felt thousands of miles away. So it's just about your sphere of influence, but you still have influence in taking accountability and responsibility for that yourself as a leader. So this sixth pillar is about everyone's a leader.
Oh, love. Wow, that was so well laid out. Obviously, you've taught this and shared it. It's so powerful though, because I think that there's on every one of those, there's different spectrums of how far you get to one side. For example, in isolation, independence, hyper self-reliance, as we see in the US especially, we get to that thinking that we can do whatever we want without regard to anyone else around us. And it's just not true because even if it's just energetically how we show up in the world, like I
Mhm.
know when I go to the office, most of the time I'm in a good mood, but if I wasn't, it affects everybody. It affects my staff, it affects my patients. So I'm responsible for bringing that good, loving energy into the office when I walk through the door because I know it'll affect the whole place. And I really like that
Yeah.
you're talking about that.
It's going to affect the trajectory of your decisions.
Yeah.
Even if you're not thinking about energy, which we can talk for hours about that too. But even if you don't want to go into the woo-woo energy, and
Hmm.
you just think about the decisions you make when you're sleep deprived versus the decisions you make when you're fully rested and feeling happy.
Yes.
It's very different. If I'm really in a bad mood and it's raining outside and I think, oh, I really want to go for a walk, I'm not going to go for that walk.
Yeah. True.
What if I say, well, you know, that's okay. I'm going to put on my raincoat.
Uh-huh.
And then I go outside and I go for a walk and I run into someone else who's going for a walk. And then I never would have met this person. And then they turn out to be like, my next colleague. Who knows?
Mm.
The point is that when we are in that negative mindset, we create a limited belief system and we create a box,
Yeah.
we become risk averse
Hmm.
and we make decisions that are coming from fear as opposed to coming from a place of balance. And no good decision is ever made when we're emotional, ever,
Yes.
especially in business or relationships. So again, being aware of where am I right now? Am I in a balanced state or in a non-balanced state? And neither is wrong.
Yes.
It's just saying I have a choice of that I can do something about it.
Oh, this is good because I can just remember in maybe last week, I'm super sensitive to mold, and one of my specialties is environmental toxicity. So, unfortunately for me, when I do get exposed to mold, I have less emotional. Something like if I would have a beer, which I don't drink at all, but I have less ability to have cognitive, clarity, and also I'm way more emotionally labile. It's like my frontal cortex is gone.
Yes.
But having said that, usually when I do get an exposure, I know, okay, I'm not in a great state to make decisions and probably not in a great state to be around a lot of people. And it usually doesn't last. But that could be one example. Another one could be, something really bad happened, you're a little depressed. In that state, if we can recognize it, what's your recommendations? Do we kind of, you mentioned like going out for a walk in the rain. For me, in that state, I may not want to be around people because I feel like I'm a little bit less capable of handling.
Exactly right.
So you say maybe go internally, do a coloring book or a meditation?
Self-care.
Yeah. Okay.
First step, it's like think of it as the baby in you is
Yeah.
crying.
Oh.
But when a baby's crying, you're going to say, you need to do it anyway? Are you going to yell at that baby?
Oh.
Are you going to take that baby and say, what's wrong, honey? How
Oh.
can I help you? Are you hungry? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need to take a nap? What's really going on here? That's why I said that's self-awareness. What am I feeling? Self-compassion. That's okay. I'm human.
Yeah.
Self-regulation, and then we listen. So
Yeah.
I have a technique called the shield, which
Huh?
I can give people access to. It's on YouTube, and help thousands of people with it, which is a mnemonic. Slow down, honor the way you feel, pay attention, inhale, don't forget to exhale. So we're calming the stress response, and then listen. What's going on here? In what way am I being triggered? And then I make a decision. I'm going to decide to take care of myself. I'm going to decide to know that I'm enough. I'm going to decide to ensure that I am taken care of right now and just take a pause. I don't have to do anything right now. I don't have to be anything right now. And it's a visualization and with
Yeah.
light and that sort of thing. It's really a beautiful meditation and a technique. So that's just an example of what you can do in the moment, but it comes down to self-nurturance.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful because that's exactly I'm usually like, okay, I'm not great to be around people. I'll go color, I'll go take a walk, I'll go take a hot bath, a cup of tea. So, but I love the SHIELD acronym. That is a really powerful thing. And we'll be sure obviously to link up to your site. And if anyone wants that video, we'll link that here too. Um, so moving forward, first of all, this is so full of practical advice and such great wisdom that you've learned and shared over the years. Going forward, I feel like there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of suffering. More people than ever are isolated and disconnected due to our
Yeah.
iPhones, due to our addiction with media, all these kinds of things. And there's so much distrust between camps, also, I think, bred about by sometimes the feeds that we get and everything. But in that state, I mean, obviously, we can go back to these practical things, but what advice would you say as we go into this chaotic future that continues to become more so? What's the top bits of wisdom that you would give people listening?
I think it's a really, really good question. I don't know that there is, there's a right answer to that. What I can say is take a moment to have compassion for yourself because it's hard.
Yeah,
I think it is really challenging to not get caught up in everything that's happening and not have an opinion.
yeah,
It's just how we're wired. We're wired to survive. And so when our brain sees something that is anti-self
yeah.
or not aligned with what the self thinks it needs to be aligned with, then it will fight it or be divisive or whatever that may be. And that's what's really happening all over the world and what's happening, especially in our country. So anything that is feels like a threat
Hmm.
self becomes a problem. How do we take care of that? Well, if I knew that I was loved to begin with, then I wouldn't feel threatened by others.
Cool. That's good.
So again, why I created that, I mean, I didn't do it. I mean, the wisdom traditions have been teaching this for thousands of years. I just created a technique that came from my point of view. It was nothing new. But it's that same answer that
Yeah.
we need to take care of that part inside of us that feels unloved. That side of us that feels not taken care of. So every time we eat something that is unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
okay, don't wrong yourself for that. Don't shame, blame yourself for that, but think about what could I do differently? that's really loving and more nurturing. Yeah, I love French fries. Okay. So let's have French fries once a week,
Uh-huh.
and otherwise, what are the other alternatives? And again, not to do it and you should take
Right.
should out of your vocabulary, but think about like what could I do to support me to thrive so that I could be functioning for my own highest self to the highest good. So unplug,
Hmm.
unplug from technology, at least an hour a day.
Hmm.
Unplug if you can more than that. When you have your meals, get out in nature. Do the things that remind you that you are a connected, enlivened, enriched being. Join a support group, join a spiritual group, find like-minded spirits who you can talk to on this level that can remind you that it's worth living, that life is worth living. I think that's really the hardest part. We just see so much depravity and so many problems and so much divisiveness. It's very difficult not to feel hopeless and helpless. And if you do, that's okay.
Hmm.
Again, meet it with compassion, meet it with love, and then reach out to those people that can support you through that.
Oh, so well said. If people want to know more about you, your work, the books you've written, where can they find that? And give us all the resources.
Okay. They can go to drselhub.com. That's drselhub.com. That's my website. So everything is there. All the information is there. Also, all my books are on Amazon or online. So there's 6 different books that
Wow.
people can choose from. The first one was The Love Response, which was my first child. And there's another book that people might enjoy called Your Health Destiny, which is really looking at how you had the ability to change your health destiny through bringing Eastern and Western medicine together. And the other ones are on resilience and your brain on nature and on burnout. So there's all these different topics. So you can find books there. I'm on all the social media platforms, posting content almost every day. So um, there's that as well. And I just launched a new online program on learnworlds.com, and it is a 10-week Foundations of Mastering Resilience. So everything I've talked about
Wow.
and how to on there, and it's lifelong ability to access that. It's do it yourself, and you can opt to do it with coaching or without. And that's brand new, and that's available to everybody as well. And soon I'll also be doing a lot of work. I was mentioning this to you prior that I just started working with this beautiful, amazing company called For Humanity.
Oh.
It's a medical technology company where we are reshaping how we do medicine. And so I'll be doing a lot of work with them as well. And you'll see me out doing media and other talks and stuff like that, talking about all of this, and also how do we take medications when we need to in a way that is more on a homeopathic level, because that's what they're creating is medications at smaller doses in a deliverable way that is really cool and fascinating. So yeah,
I
look out for
cannot
that as
wait
well.
to hear. And guys, if you're out there listening and driving or whatever you're doing, chores around the house, don't worry. I will have all of this in the show notes, all the mentions of the websites and the program and this new For Humanity. That's super exciting. I want to stay tuned to that. Dr. Eva Selhub, this has been an absolute pleasure. I love the work you're doing in the world. I love how clear you are with just giving us instructions. Be kind to ourselves and some of these basic things. Thank you again for all that you've done.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Wasn't that an amazing interview with Dr. Eva Selhub? I hope you will go out and check out her courses and her book and just all the wonderful work she is doing in the world. I just want to say I feel so blessed lately to have connected with such incredible humans in the world and the work that they're doing. If you guys, listeners, have any suggestions for people to interview, you maybe have a contact or someone that you know that's doing amazing work in the world, you know my audience, you know my interviews, and I would be honored if you reach out to me and send me information about someone you think would be a great guest for this show. Or if you yourself have work in the world, I love to feature people who are making a difference and changing humanity in their own way, in their own corner of the world. And today was no different. And guys, if you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you join the many subscribers here on YouTube and click that subscribe button, click the bell so you can be notified of future episodes. And if you are on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to audio podcasts, please do stop by, leave us a review. It helps us to reach more people. And I look forward to seeing you next week for a new episode of Resiliency Radio. Until then, goodbye.